Hello, this is Tom Herring. I'm going to speak about this SIG P220 combat, or not combat, but a SIG P220 that's painted up like a combat. Happens to have one in it. Anyway, this particular model is a SIG P220 45 ACP. Fires from a box magazine, 7 or 8 rounds. Available through Novak and Mekgar 6 Hour themselves. I've had this weapon for about a year and a half or so. It was a police trade-in from a Yuma Police Department. When I received this weapon, it had holster wear, had stock wear on the stocks, but the internal still had a lot of life left. It was a very accurate gun, very impressive shooter. I could see why the police department decided to go with it. Up until that point, I had carried for the last 10 years 1911s, and up to the one when I got this one, the last one I had was a Springfield Armory. This weapon here it's an older one. It's not one of the latest models. It uses a stamped steel slide. The newer ones, I believe, use a stainless milled slide, but this is a steel slide. It's not stainless. The weapon isn't too heavy. It's a lot lighter than the 1911. We felt the difference when I compared it to my 1911. I had the weapon finished here in Tucson by Max Shooting Irons, west of here, way west, nearly out of Tucson, on the west side. He finished it in, I believe, coyote brown and black, using the Gun Kote Industries Gun Kote, which is an epoxy finish that's baked on. But all the steel parts, he parkerizes before he applies the epoxy finish. And aluminum is epoxy finished and baked on. They're all baked. The stocks are plastic. They couldn't be baked, but it still holds up pretty well. There's a little wear on there because I do use this weapon and bang around. You know, I'm not going to be nice to it. That's why I got this tough wear finish. And up here there's usually scratches if you look at SIGs up here right on the side here from where you manipulate the action. It's holding up very well. I've shot this weapon and manipulated it quite a few times. Shot it, probably put about 50 rounds to it since I got it. Mac told me that it might malfunction or stovepipe when I first shot it because he had to redo it. You know, when he puts it together after painting, he has to polish and do something to the insides to get all this weapon to work right, because a SIG is already very tight. Weapon functioned flawlessly. For those of you not familiar with SIGs, they have all the controls for a right-hand shooter. This right here is the disassembly lever. You take this down with it on, slide lock to the rear. The slide comes off. Here's your decocker to decock the hammer. There's no safety on this weapon. This is your slide stop to lock the slide to the rear. These weapons come with sights that are, we call them dot to eye. You dot the eye. Well, for better shooting and long-range shooting, I just painted them all black. There is no white paint because I prefer a blacked out sight. So instead of replacing the sights, which these look like great sights, I just had Mac take the white out or just paint them all black. Like I say, he painted all the controls, all the hardware black, and the lower part, the receiver, he painted coyote tan. When I got the weapon, there was considerable wear on all the control surfaces from the police department, whoever the officer was that had it. He dropped it once, it looks like. He dropped it right on the tip of the barrel. I thought it might affect accuracy, but when I shot the weapon, it shot fine. It's not like a concrete. It looks like he dropped it on a metal surface or something, but there's a little ding there. Weapon has a lot of life left, and I'm going to give it a lot of life. Like I said, it replaced my 1911. I like it a lot. Like I say, this finish has a lot of molybdenum disulfide, which is also the lubricant that he uses it's called dry lube for these weapons. But the black has a high content of the molybdenum disulfide, and that's why I'm glad he painted the top black, and then Rail said it would help on the friction and keep it all down and stuff. But I haven't lubed this weapon yet. I'm still running the same lubrication that he put on here. I haven't got any of this stuff yet. I got to ask him exactly what brand it is. He showed me, but I wasn't paying attention. I've been using the same stuff, either CLP break free or Remington Rem Oil, which is a Teflon base, really light film, not really. It's good if you have it on hand when you're shooting, but I wouldn't suggest it for long-term store. If you're going to take the weapon and be out for a while without the oil, or if you're going to use it a lot. it might not work. It's good for sportsmen, it's not for combat type situations or rigorous shooting. But the weapon, like I said, it's a full size handgun. You know, I have medium sized hands. It's about similar dimensions to the 1911. 1911 is a little bit slimmer. I don't have one here to show you because it's in another city. Another person is taking care of it because this weapon replaced the 1911, and I like I said, so much so that I just handed the 1911 over. So here, guys, it's on permanent loan to you because I like this weapon so much better. A lot of diehard 1911 fans don't agree with me, but like I said, I was one of those diehard 1911 fans. This thing is a little costly, you know. I paid $500 and $542 for it out the door used. I saw them going for $389 used. There was 2 cop guns laying at this other gun shop, and I didn't really care much for the SIG 220. I like the 226, high capacity and all that stuff. But for some reason, I don't know what it was. I went and got one, and it was considerably more. I kicked myself for not getting those 2 at the same time for $389. That was a steal. Man, if I knew how much of a steal that was, I'd have jumped on it. Like I said, I got this in $542. The gun code is about $150. You know, I took it to the guy here locally. He does work for all over the country and nationally, and he doesn't really have a storefront, and he'll say it on his website, but he does accommodate local customers, and I'm one of those because I live here in Tucson. Took the weapon to him. Very, very friendly guy. Very, you know, knows the stuff about guns. Loves SIGs. Very, very articulate about this weapon here. When I went into his shop, I knew I went to the right guy because there were several SIGs that he was working on at the time. And he takes SIGs in on trade for work. He just really likes them that much. And it's good to have somebody that's passionate about the system that you're taking from to work on, you know. Gunsmiths are not specialized. They usually work on a lot of stuff. I say gunsmiths, not gun armors, because the guys that work on 1911s or Glocks or modular weapons, they're armors. They're not gunsmiths. Gunsmiths actually have to finish parts to get them to work properly, like my gunsmith did, or Mac. He had to chamfer or buff inside the edges, or polish inside. Actually, when you paint inside these weapons, they're such tight-fitting weapons, and it's built-in bushing. He had to polish the surfaces to get the weapon to lock in the battery. Actually, if I cock it back like that, you'll see right there, it's not even all the way in battery. It's that tight-fitting, you know, and it'll wear in. Like I said, I haven't shot it enough times yet. When I took this weapon to him, it had rattle. It would have rattled because it was a cop gun, and they're built kind of loose anyway. But he said he painted heavy in the slide areas, and he hand laps them to get a nice tight finish. He says when you shoot it in, it'll reach its natural state, you know, where it needs to be. Of course, it's not going to be any looser. It's going to just wear in where it needs, and that's a really good thing. It's such a really tough finish. I will never do Duracoat. I had a bad story about that, and if you see my gun, you will see it on Max Shooting Iron's website. He does post it, and he goes into details of my experience with Duracoat. This weapon was Duracoated, or attempted to be Duracoated when I took it into him. But you guys will see that if you go check it out. I'll try to put a link on the video. But anyway, this is Tom Herron out.